Surprise, just sold the lake house to Amanda's dad for $500,000. Don't worry about the paperwork, I signed for both of us. You never cared about that place anyway. I stared at the message from Michael, my coffee sitting untouched on the desk as I tried to process what he'd done. He'd attached a photo, him grinning in front of my lake house, his arm around a young blonde woman who looked barely 25. My name is Olivia Parker. I'm 38 years old, and today I found out that my husband of 15 years not only has a much younger girlfriend, but also tried to sell my family's lake house to her father. That house had been in my family for 3 generations. My grandfather built it in 1962, and I spent every summer there growing up. When my parents died 5 years ago, they left it to me, only me. I took a sip of coffee. Strangely, I felt calm. A couple months ago, this would have wrecked me. But that was before I found lipstick-stained receipts in Michael's coat. Before I noticed money missing from our joint account. Before I hired a private investigator who confirmed everything I feared. Another text came in. Amanda's dad already sent the money. We're thinking of remodeling, maybe adding a pool. Time to bring some youth to the place. I couldn't help but smile a little. Michael was always full of himself. But this? Trying to sell property that wasn't his? That was a new level. Then a message from a number I didn't know. Hi Olivia, it's Amanda. Just wanted to thank you for being so cool about the house. Daddy's super excited to make it our new vacation spot. Michael says you never use it anyway. I saved her number and didn't reply. Instead, I called Thomas Morgan, our family lawyer. Olivia, he answered right away. I was just about to call. I got some odd documents about the lake house. Let me guess, I said, leaning back. A forged signature trying to transfer ownership. Exactly, and not a very good one either. Your husband's no expert in faking signatures. I heard papers rustling on his end. The interesting part, he added, is that Amanda's dad already wired $500,000 into Michael's personal account. $500,000? I asked, already knowing the number. Yes, and since Michael had no right to sell the house and this clearly counts as fraud. He trailed off. What can we do? Well, Thomas said with a hint of amusement, we can tell Amanda's dad right now and start legal action against Michael. Or, I asked. We could wait until they submit the transfer paperwork to the county and let them figure out they've been scammed. Sometimes people learn best when reality hits. I thought of Michael's smug texts, Amanda's clueless message, and all the nights I'd wondered why he'd been so distant. Let's wait, I said. How long do we have? With that amount of money, they'll likely file in the next few days. I looked at a photo on my desk, Michael and I last summer at the lake house. He was smiling, but now it looked fake. Was he already planning this then? Keep me updated, I told Thomas. Thanks. After hanging up, I finally replied to Michael. Congrats on the sale. Hope everything turns out just the way you deserve. He texted right back. Glad you're finally being reasonable. I'll send someone to pack your stuff. I looked around my office at everything I'd built for myself while Michael plotted behind my back. The lake house wasn't just a place, it was history, family, love. And the fact he thought he could just sell it like it meant nothing said everything about who he really was. Another text buzzed in. Michael says we should throw a housewarming party after the reno. You're totally welcome to come if you want. I put the phone down without replying. Let them have their party. Let them plan. The real surprise was coming, and this time, I'd be the one watching it unfold. I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city. I'd had this office view for 10 years, ever since I started my own practice. Michael once called it a waste of money, said my clients didn't care about the view. But I cared, just like I cared about the lake house, about family, about respect. My phone lit up with a message from Thomas. They just submitted the paperwork to the county. Should take about 48 hours. I smiled as the sunset painted the sky in warm colors. In 2 days, Michael would realize what he'd really done. And I'd be right here, watching everything fall apart. For him. Because sometimes, the best revenge is just letting people deal with the mess they made. 2 days passed at an agonizingly slow pace. I kept my phone close, waiting for the inevitable explosion that would come when Michael discovered his mistake. Each hour brought new messages from him and Amanda, filled with renovation plans and thinly veiled jabs about updating the old place. The call came at 3:47 p.m. What the hell is this? Michael's voice crackled through my speaker. All pretense of civility gone. The county just rejected the transfer. They're saying I had no right to sell the property. I settled into my office chair, enjoying the panic in his voice. Oh, that's strange. Did they say why? Don't play dumb, Olivia. They said the house is solely in your name. That's impossible. We're married. Everything is joint property. I could hear Amanda in the background, her voice high and worried, asking what was wrong. Not everything, Michael. The lake house was inherited from my parents. It was never in your name. You knew, he accused. You knew and you let me sell it anyway. Correction. I let you try to sell it. There's a difference. I kept my voice calm, professional. By the way, how's Mr. Anderson taking the news? The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, Michael spoke, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. He's threatening legal action. Says if he doesn't get his money back immediately, he's going to the police. Well, that's unfortunate, I replied. Especially since you've already spent some of that money, haven't you? Another pause. I could almost see him pacing, running his hands through his graying hair the way he did when things spiraled out of his control. How did you know that? The same way I know about the apartment you leased for Amanda 3 months ago, and the jewelry you bought her, and the weekend trips to Miami. I let each revelation land like a hammer blow. I'm not as oblivious as you thought, Michael. You had me followed. His indignation would have been amusing if it weren't so hypocritical. Let's call it due diligence. Now, I assume Mr. Anderson will want his $500,000 back rather quickly. I don't, he started, then stopped. I can't pay it all back right now. In the background, I heard Amanda's voice rise in pitch. What do you mean you can't pay it back? Daddy's going to be furious. I waited, letting them argue for a moment before speaking again. You know, fraud charges are serious, Michael. Forging signatures, selling property you don't own. That could mean jail time. You wouldn't, he said. His voice wavered. I wouldn't have to do anything. Mr. Anderson seems perfectly capable of handling that himself. The sound of a door slamming came through the phone, followed by Amanda's voice growing distant, calling for her father. Michael's breathing had grown heavy, panicked. Olivia, please, we can work something out. I'll move out, give you whatever you want in the divorce. Just help me fix this. I thought about all the times I caught him in small lies over the years, how he'd always managed to talk his way out of them. Not this time. You know what's interesting? I said, keeping my tone conversational. When you were so busy planning your new life, you forgot to check whose name was on the deed. Just like you forgot to check whose name was on the investment account you used for Amanda's apartment. What are you talking about? The account you emptied last month? It was in my name too. Every withdrawal, every transfer, it's all documented. Mr. Anderson might be interested in seeing those records. You're bluffing, he said, but I could hear the fear creeping into his voice. Am I? Check your email. I just sent you copies of everything. Bank statements, transfer records, even some interesting text messages between you and Amanda from 6 months ago. I'm sure her father would find those enlightening. The sharp intake of breath told me he was reading them now. How did you get copies? Let's just say I learned from your mistakes, Michael. I learned to document everything. The sound of another door opening came through the phone, followed by a man's angry voice. Mr. Anderson, I assumed. Michael's next words came in a rush. I have to go. We're not done talking about this. Actually, I said, I think we are. Good luck with Mr. Anderson. I hear he has an excellent lawyer. I hung up and leaned back in my chair, feeling lighter than I had in months. Through my office window, I could see storm clouds gathering on the horizon, appropriate weather for the storm Michael had just walked into. My phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. Mr. Anderson's lawyer just called. They're pursuing criminal charges unless full restitution is made immediately. I smiled, typing back, keep me updated. I have a feeling things are about to get very interesting. Looking at the family photo on my desk, taken at the lake house last summer, I finally saw what I should have noticed months ago. While Michael was looking at the camera, his smile forced and distant, I was looking at the horizon, already moving toward a future that didn't include him. The fallout was swifter and more devastating than even I had anticipated. By evening, Mr. Anderson had marched into the police station, files in hand, ready to press charges. Michael's desperate calls kept coming, each one more panicked than the last. "Please, Olivia," he begged during his sixth call. "Anderson's serious about pressing charges. I could go to jail." I sat on the lake house dock, my feet dangling over the water, watching the sunset paint the lake in shades of gold. "That's generally what happens when you commit fraud, Michael." "I'll do anything," he said. "I'll give you full ownership of everything in the divorce. Just help me fix this." I couldn't help but laugh. "Full ownership? Of what exactly?" "The house you tried to sell is already mine. The investment account you drained was in my name." "What exactly are you offering?" His silence spoke volumes. "That's what I thought," I continued. "By the way, Amanda stopped by earlier." "What?" The panic in his voice rose. "Why?" "To apologize, actually. Seems her father showed her all the evidence, including those texts where you promised to leave me 6 months ago. She was quite shocked to learn you'd been lying to her too." The truth had hit Amanda hard. She'd arrived at the lake house in tears, mascara streaking down her face. "He told me you were separated," she'd sobbed. "He said you were just staying together for appearances." I'd made her tea, let her cry it out. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people see the truth for themselves. "Amanda's gone." Michael's voice cracked. "Back to her father's house. She mentioned something about focusing on her career instead of lying older men." Her words, not mine. The sound of something breaking came through the phone, followed by muffled cursing. "Mr. Anderson's lawyer called," I said conversationally. "They're willing to drop the criminal charges if you repay the full amount within 48 hours. Generous of them, don't you think?" "You know I can't get that kind of money that quickly." "Actually, you can. Sell your beloved boat. Liquidate your retirement account. Sell those ridiculous collector cars you bought last year. It might be just enough." Another crash, followed by heavy breathing. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" "No, Michael, I'm not enjoying it. I'm just finally seeing you clearly." I ended the call and looked out over the lake. The water was calm, reflecting the evening sky like a mirror. My grandfather used to say still waters run deep, meaning the quietest people often have the most powerful thoughts. He would have appreciated how this played out. Over the next week, I watched through my lawyer as Michael scrambled to gather the money. He sold his prized possessions, emptied his accounts, even borrowed from friends. In the end, he managed to repay Mr. Anderson just hours before the deadline. The divorce proceedings were remarkably straightforward. Michael, humbled and exhausted, didn't contest anything. He signed the papers without argument, giving me everything I asked for, not that there was much left to give. The last time I saw him was at the courthouse. He looked older, defeated, his designer clothes replaced by off-the-rack basics. "I never meant for it to go this far," he said quietly. "You never meant to get caught." I corrected him. "There's a difference." He nodded, shoulders slumping. "The lake house, it really was beautiful. I should have appreciated it more." "You should have appreciated a lot of things more, Michael." As he turned to leave, he paused. "What will you do now?" I smiled, thinking of the renovation plans I'd already drawn up for the lake house. Not to modernize it, but to restore it to its original glory, the way my grandfather had built it. "I'm going to keep building the life I deserve," I said. "And this time, I'm doing it my way." The following weekend, I hosted a family reunion at the lake house. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all the people Michael had gradually pushed away over the years. We shared stories about my grandfather building the place, about summers spent swimming and fishing, about the legacy that had almost been lost. Standing on the dock that evening, watching the kids play in the water while the adults gathered on the porch, I felt a profound sense of peace. The house was full of laughter again, full of life and love, the way it was always meant to be. My phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. "Final divorce papers are filed. It's officially over." I looked out over the lake, at the future stretching before me like the endless horizon. "No," I thought, "it's just beginning." Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. Free to live authentically, free to honor your legacy, and free to build something better from the ashes of betrayal. The lake house stands as a testament to that truth. Not just a house, but a home. Not just a property, but a legacy. And not just a victory, but a new beginning.